All right. Welcome back to the 61st episode of the podcast we call on The Unknown. I'm sorry. My name, Michael Volpe. I am in Chicago, Illinois. On the north side, we're going to talk about a rally that was near me over the weekend. And I write at michaelvolpe.substack.com. You should subscribe. Paid and free subscriptions available. My broadcast partner, Richard Luthman, that's spelled Luthmann. The reason that's important is he writes at luthman.substack.com. And he's somewhere in Florida, definitely Lee County, and that is definitely named after Robert Edward Lee. And besides that, I got nothing on you. People should subscribe to your Substack as well. And we got all kinds of things that happened, current events wise, over the weekend. They call them No Kings. I think that's with an S. Rallies all over the place. The estimates were wide ranging, but definitely in the millions. I like all around the world. I they gathered. I think they were all around the world. They had a No Kings rally in England, even though they actually have a king in England. But be that as it may, definitely the numbers were significant. We'll see how it goes from here. I compare anything like this, like a so-called grassroots movement. I'm sure you're going to tell me how it's not grassroots. To the Tea Party movement, and Tea Party started like 90 days after President Obama was sworn in. In in response to, I can't remember what he called it, the stimulus, which is like over $1 trillion, which was a lot of money at the time. But where the Tea Party succeeded was they coalesced around a core set of issues and then tried to lobby on those issues and back candidates for those issues. And that was small government, lower taxes, less regulations. Rand Paul was a Tea Party candidate, as was Thomas Massie, both from Kentucky. They're still around. It had limited success. It definitely blunted Obama's success. He got wiped out in 2010 as a result of the Tea Party movement. And sequester came along, I think, in part because of the Tea Party movement. No Kings would have to do something like that, where you coalesce around a set of issues, back candidates that go for those issues, and oppose candidates that are against those, and then it would be successful. But for now, it was a big set of rallies. Your thoughts?
I think that if you're talking about political movements, what we're seeing from the left, there's two points I want to make about it. From a historical perspective, I think they're closer to the Know Nothings. Remember the Know Nothing Party of the 1850s? They
Right.
came in and they wanted to just stop the establishment. That's a lot what you're seeing with these woke AOC, Mamdani types that want to come in. And that's really the base of what we're seeing that has a common core with what we saw at the No Kings rally, a very Bernie Sanders-esque type wing of Democrats, and even people who are further left than Democrats. They call themselves socialists or woke or whatever they call themselves. But the Know Nothings came in and they swept in the early 1850s because people were just fed up with the politics. And the politics had been in decline for a while. In the early 1850s, said, let's put these people in. And their platform was, we know nothing, but we know this. But they had no ability to govern. And if you look at the Know Nothings in Chicago, in New York, all across the country, in the urban areas where they were elected in, a lot of them didn't finish their entire terms. You know, they were out after a year or two because they realized that as bad as the people before them were, the people that they just put in were worse. And I think that's what's going to happen with Mamdani and with some of these other people that come in. I think Mamdani is a shoo-in to win. And so you tie it to this No Kings movement. I think that Trump is going to have an argument. It's not going to be like the Tea Party in that they're going to sweep through the midterms. I think Trump's going to have an argument about the insanity, about the guy, Jones down in Virginia, the Attorney General, about Mamdani, about some other like lunatic Democrats. And they hold up these No Kings people who, and the second point, are paid agitators. Now, you could say the Tea Party was potentially funded by large interests. A lot of that was PAC money. A lot of that was disclosed. The bigger issue we have now with Antifa is that it's an international organization, that it's funneling money. George Soros is funneling money based on reports to the No Kings. So this is a very synthetic, it's inauthentic showing. A lot of the people there, if you look, it's an AARP convention. You know, and a lot of them have the same signs. They have the same rally.
It wasn't inauthentic where I was. This is on the north side. This goes for 7 seconds. You can handle it. This is all people in the neighborhood. There was about 1,000. There's about 1,000 people there. That was the smaller one. I think there was close to 100,000 people. I like this guy. What an outfit! What an outfit for him. But there was close to 100,000 Grant Park. That's downtown. That was where the big rally was, where J.B. Pritzker was. By the way, Trump is making Pritzker more popular than ever. I like Pritzker because on the budget he's not completely out of control, and he's not Ron DeSantis. So don't at me with some fiscal conservative Republican. Of course, he's not that. But I, by taking on Trump, he's become very popular. Pritzker has in Illinois. So I think he's a shoo-in to win his next reelection. He probably will run for president. As far as no kings, you have to coalesce around something like no troops in cities, no arrests without warrants, but that actually sounds like a libertarian ideal. I like libertarian principles. I don't think liberals are. I did want to point out the rally had all the hallmarks of this very leftist group. However, Chicago Answer, Act Now to Stop War and End Racism, I think is what that stands for. They were the first ones to use the word resistance for Trump. And right there, we have to resist Trump. This was a rally in 2016. He had been elected. He hadn't even been in office, and they're already resisting him. The thing is, I've been to a lot of rallies that Answer either put on or at least helped to put on, and their signs are there. I didn't see any signs. There's a lot of like Revolutionary Party of Communism and these like leftist signs. I didn't see that at this one. I don't know if people have gotten smarter and they just make homemade signs, or if these groups really weren't backing them. But if No Kings is to be successful, they have to coalesce around a set of issues and then back candidates that back those issues, oppose candidates that don't, like the Tea Party did.
You want me to make my prediction?
Mm-hmm.
I think Donald Trump is going to hijack No Kings because Donald Trump himself is going to face a Washingtonian moment, a George Washington moment, where he's going to have, within a short period of time, universal acclaim to the point where we as the people might ask him to be the king. And he's such a great leader and a great man. He's going to say no because he loves the Constitution that much. That's how good he's been these first few months in office, and that's how good he's going to be and continues to be. And this is the American Golden Age, and I think it's a great time. I think No Kings, Donald Trump is the poster child for No Kings because of the Washingtonian moment and the George Washington moment where the man who would not be king, George Washington and Donald Trump.
He has 40% approval rating. You have no idea how unpopular he is because you only talk to people in your little bubble. No one wants him to be king.
People in Naples, Florida. I talk to people.
All right. All right. You talk to other MAGA people. All right. So we want to give a quick update on the what I call a ceasefire. Some people call it a peace deal. It's a 20-point plan. On paper, this ceasefire is pretty good. Gaza will be de-radicalized, terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. That's aspirational. Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people who have suffered more than enough. That's aspirational. If both sides agree to this, the war will immediately end. That's already happened. Within 72 hours of the agreement, all hostages. That is happening not quite within 72 hours. Israel thinks they're not. Israel does not think they're holding any live hostages, but they do think that Hamas knows where more remains are. But they're trying that one. Once all hostages are released, Israel released a whole bunch of people, bad hombres, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe haven. That has not happened. Full aid will immediately be sent in. Aid is being sent in. What Kushner said, who, though he doesn't have an official role, but because of he was instrumental in the Abraham Accords, that's probably why he's helping. What he's saying is the parts of Gaza that Hamas is going to run will get no aid. The rest of it will get aid. If they can pull that off, that might work. That's an interesting idea. Entry of distribution and aid. There's a lot of aid. He also said there's going to be a technocratic government. That's what they tried in Iraq in 2003 and 2004. That didn't work out very well. This international stabilizing force, They will not occupy or annex Gaza, Israel, that is. They have withdrawn from parts of Gaza. Their soldiers were shot at. Two, I think, were killed. They shot back, but that hasn't destroyed the peace. I don't think that Hamas is going to disarm, though. So your thoughts on the prospects of peace?
Um, Look, it was the path was illuminated by Donald Trump. And I said it before, the Knesset speech was so vital because it announced to the world, America walks with Israel, walk with us, or stand alone. And that is the choice that Hamas is making right now. That is
what choice have they made so far?
Not to walk with the United States. And the olive branch that was put out in that peace deal is behave. Behave. All you have to do is behave.
Yeah, they're not behaving. They're not behaving.
And so the issue, Michael, is this: on the ground. Okay, you're a family that lives in Gaza that's trying to stay away from these troubles. You're trapped in there. You have a war going on, not with the IDF. You have a war going on between Hamas and the local gangs. Okay, they're gun running in there. The bullets flying back and forth. It's a war zone still. And so the issue becomes, and you saw it. You put it on last week for everybody that they're killing people in the streets. They're engaging in behavior. They're not behaving. They said that they would come to this deal, and then they're not behaving. They have to behave, or else, Trump's going to drop the hammer.
Why did anyone?
Donald Trump does not want anything other than peace. He's the peace president. Bibi Netanyahu wants peace. But
we're about to talk about how much.
If they have to send the IDF in, and I think that they'll give them like a week to let every civilian out of there, but you'll see that Hamas won't let them. They'll have to go in and just kill everything that moves.
I think who will go in?
I would send in. I'd send in everybody. I'd send in the IDF. I'd send in a force. Hell, I drop some bombs. I don't give two shits.
Right. Would you send in you? So you're saying U.S. troops will be in Gaza?
I wouldn't send U.S. troops in. It's not our business there. I think we give U.S. weapons.
IDF had 2 years to root them out, and they certainly rooted out a lot of them.
No, they're not allowed to do the methods that will root them out within a week. Okay, Israel wins wars in days. Okay, if Israel wanted to win this war in 7 days, this would be done in 7 days, and the place would be a parking lot. And at a certain point, Trump can say, you know what? I've tried everything, and I'm going to go like this.
You've said that a million times about what Trump will do, and that's not actually true. And speaking of the peace president, he's shooting up boats in the Caribbean and claiming that they are drug dealers, but I'm not so sure that any of them are actually drug dealers. I think he is engaged in extrajudicial killing, and he shot up a boat that he claimed was full of drug dealers and then sent the survivors back to their home country because he doesn't have any evidence that they're dealing drugs. And if he detained them and tried to prosecute them, they'd be found not guilty.
Michael, those missiles are saving American lives. The Chinese are producing drugs. The Colombians and the Venezuelans are dealing them, getting them to the United States. It's poison on the streets. I don't know if you had members of your family that died of fentanyl overdose. I have. Okay? Get the poison off the streets, and that's what Trump is doing. He made a promise to the American people. American people gave him a mandate to do it. Get rid of the poison. Get rid of the poison that's flooding the streets and destroying our country. So I have no problem with this whatsoever. Is he extraditing them back to their country? Sure, that makes sense. You know why? Because since Marco Rubio came in, they've made deals that said, okay, you're going to prosecute your own people for doing this, or else if we have to take care of it, we're going to take it right off your foreign aid. There are going to be foreign aid consequences for your country.
You're right. He wanted a third world country to prosecute these guys. Yeah. He's not prosecuting them because they're not actually drug dealers. He's shooting up boats in the Caribbean based on nothing. This is not only scandalous, but dangerous. And there are reports that he's trying to engage in regime change with Venezuela. That doesn't sound like a very good idea. So James Comey and his high-powered, high-priced lawyers have filed like 5 million motions to dismiss. I'm not sure I need to file so many motions to dismiss, unless you're just trying to create extra work for your opponents. That might be true. But the one that caught my eye is that they are arguing that this lady right here, Miss Halligan, what's her first name? Lindsay Halligan. She is the temporary.
She's a MAGA icon already. She's just great.
Right. She's a MAGA icon because if Trump said jump, she'd ask how high. She's a MAGA icon. She is the temporary Eastern District of Virginia U.S. Attorney, but as James Comey's lawyers argue, she was appointed illegally. As they say, U.S. attorneys and interim attorneys must be appointed in conjunction with the U.S. Constitution, Article 3, Section 2, I don't know what that is. So U.S. attorneys are supposed to be nominated by the president, and the Senate gives them the approval. That didn't happen with Ms. Halligan, but that didn't happen with her predecessor either. There is another part, U.S. Section 546, you can see that right here, which, according to Comey, allows the Attorney General may appoint. Right there, you see that the Attorney General may appoint an interim U.S. attorney for 120 days. And then, after the attorney's invocation, after that, the district court for such district may appoint a U.S. attorney to serve until the vacancy is filled. Right? So, Pam Bondi appointed her predecessor, Seibert. That 120 days ran out. The district court gave him another 120 days. Trump fired him and appointed his flunky, and she's the one who indicted Comey, and they are arguing the appointment is illegal. That I have given you their argument. That is not law. That's not an order. That is directly from James Comey's motion. Now, you tell everyone why Comey's very high-priced lawyers don't understand the Constitution and the law.
Well, put it this way. He appointed her, right? And so it was actually vacant. The guy resigned. So based on that, the terms of that language, Halligan's appointment is actually valid. This is the big issue. This is going to get to the Supreme Court, though. There's going to be some clarification on this issue because of the Alina Habba case, which actually was heard by the appellate court yesterday, the Third Circuit. And the issue then becomes, after the 120 days or 180 days, is it the district court, the judiciary, that could appoint the U.S. attorney? Does that become a separation of powers issue? Number one. Number two, does that invite a terrible situation for the judiciary where the Congress then kills some district courts? And that's because the Congress has the power of the purse, Mike. They could turn around and go to Eastern District of Virginia, District of New Jersey, some of these blue districts, and defund judgeships. So where you have 12 judges sitting now or 20 judges sitting now, they knock it down to 3 actual district judges and choke them out. So the federal judiciary doesn't want that. It's becoming a judicial politics issue too. That's why it's going to get to the Supreme Court. There's going to be a balance here.
But what do you think? You're running around.
I already said the issue in the first sentence from Lindsay Halligan that she's not there 120 days yet. It's totally fine for them to do that. This issue is not a ripe issue. They're going to go for mootness.
But nothing in either the Constitution or the law grants the president the power to appoint someone on a temporary basis.
The Attorney General appoints.
She didn't appoint her. He did.
No, he told the Attorney General. Attorney General did it.
Right. All right. We'll see how that plays out. That if the courts agree with Comey, this is a huge problem for Trump. That means that the newest indictment against what's the guy's name? John Bolton, that probably goes away because the same person indicted him. And by the way, he's going through his enemies, so now he wants to prosecute John Brennan. He doesn't care about bribery because his good friend Tom Homan is on audio tape taking a bribe, but he doesn't care about that. This is it's clearly, that's totally bogus. There's as much evidence that Holman committed a crime as there is James Comey. So it's two-tier justice. It's just favoring the Republicans. This is what I was worried about. We're turning into a banana republic. When the Democrats get in power, they're going to try to prosecute any and all of their political enemies. This is what they do in banana republics. France just put Sarkozy in jail. They did it in Ukraine. They did it in Georgia, the country of Georgia. They do it in Russia all the time. North Korea, you name it, Iran. These third world countries, when you're not in power, you go to jail. You don't want that in the U.S., and Trump is turning that up. Anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, they're going to have to give Trump something here only because if they give Trump nothing, okay, it's going to turn into a war in the judiciary, and Trump can win the war against the judiciary. The judiciary is going to be a real problem, because Congress can start taking away seats. They can start to defund. They can start to shut things down. And things are already shut down already. We're going to see problems with the judiciary. So if American justice grinds to a halt. The system itself grinds to a halt. Just think like simple things.
He'll
Like
blow up
Admiralty.
the entire system because he can't prosecute James Comey for.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that should definitely help his legacy. All right, so Andy Biggs, Biggs, he is a congressman from Arizona running for governor against the current governor, Democrat Katie Hobbs. He was on with a local guy out of Arizona. The show is called The Afternoon Addiction with Garrett Lewis, and they talked about a subject that we have broached before. Before we talk about it, let's hear them talk about it.
The one thing that Katie Hobbs has done consistently is veto hundreds of bills. And my theory is that she just doesn't know how to read. So I think she just hits veto anyway. But that's my situation.
So are you telling me that there's a 2-syllable word that she understands and it's veto? Is that what you're telling me?
The Italian guy she went to school with one point named Vito. That's what it was.
Fritos.
Exactly. So there's a story that came out in the Washington Examiner about her vetoing a whole bunch of bills that would have been damaging to the Chinese Communist Party here in Arizona. And after she vetoed these bills, next thing you know, the Democrats, the Democrat Governors Association gets a $10,000 donation from a man affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party. Do you think this can't be a coincidence, can it?
It's tough to believe that it would be a coincidence. I mean, but it certainly is. Let's just say. Maybe there's no causation there, but there certainly seems to be some kind of correlation there. We don't know.
All right. So before we talk specifically about that story, you've written some about like the Chinese Communist Party's influence in the U.S. What's your issue with their influence in the U.S.?
Well, one of the issues of we're going to stick to the topic. Katie Hobbs in Arizona was they're buying up farmland in the heartland. They're buying all this place.
And so that's related to this story because what this bill tried to do was stop them from buying real estate. Farmland is
buying the real estate, disclosing the beneficial owner, because if they start buying up land, farmland, and places by military installations and by really important points in our country for national security, it becomes an issue. They don't have a property right. A foreign country doesn't have a property right to come in and use our own laws against us to our own detriment. We have national security prerogatives. So laws like this are protective measures. It's a simple protective measure. At the closing table at real estate, you just have to disclose who the beneficial ownership is. And it's not a hard thing to do. We already have it on the federal level called FERPTA, where you have to disclose who the people are. And a lot of times, if it's foreign ownership, you have a corporation, and then you can find out who the beneficial owner of the corporation is. If it becomes an offshore interest, okay, that becomes a big problem. Okay, and so there's a place for people to know who the owners of the properties are, so that we can actually do enforcement. We don't want to cater. Listen, think about it, Mike. The CCP has police stations in the United States that they run. They have informal police stations. They set up shop here. They believe that they have control over citizens who are of Chinese descent, whether or not they're nationals of China or not, whether they're living in another country or not. They've already infiltrated to a certain extent, and there's been prosecutions where our law enforcement has busted that stuff up. They just don't want that to happen in Arizona and elsewhere, and I think they have every right to do so. How does Katie Hobbs, who I think is a statist and a maniac, stand in the way?
But is that legal to say that this foreign country can't buy real estate, but if you're from Canada, you can?
Yes.
But doesn't that violate the equal protection?
No, equal protection doesn't apply to foreign sovereign and international. There's something called the Foreign Sovereign Immunity Act.
Now
wait. There's the anti-death penalty and anti-terrorism act of 1995, and it's related to the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act that has a list of state sponsors of terror. It's a list that's created by the Secretary of State. If you're on that list, nothing applies. You have no process, no nothing. And on that list are all the usual suspects. Okay, North Korea, Tehran, Iran. You have all these other places that are state sponsors of terrorism. And so they're on that list.
Wait, China is a state sponsor of terror?
No, China's on other lists. China's on list of an enemy. Like Russia's an enemy, and China's an enemy. They're foreign enemies.
So if an Australian billionaire,
the Five Eyes are fine.
It's okay for Murdoch to go buy up half of our media, an Australian guy. That's okay. You don't have a problem with that.
To a certain extent,
he can own FNC.
You have election laws
Australian. That's
election
okay.
Election law is different. Your speech is not fully there because you have.
But he's buying entities.
I know he can buy entities, but then if he gets into electoral influence, that could be a problem.
Well, you don't think FNC is an electoral influence? An Australian guy. And so, and if it's okay for Murdoch, how come it wouldn't it also be okay for George Soros? George Soros buys lots of real estate. Why are we allowing him to buy real estate if we're going to do this?
The question becomes is whether they're, and this is technical stuff. It's pretty boring, but it's who is the investor, who's the control group. There are a lot of
you say that George Soros is an enemy of America. Why are we allowing him to buy? Well, so why are we allowing him to buy anything in America?
Beautiful thing about American tradition is we'll still take your money, even if we don't like it.
Well, so we'll take Chinese money as well. So there are, speaking of the federal court system, and my favorite part of this is going to be identifying the judges and saying which president appointed them. But there are concurrently two cases dealing with roughly the same issue in Illinois and in Oregon, whether or not President Trump can send in the National Guard. In Oregon, the appeals court said he can. For now, in Chicago, he can't. So I don't think that the National Guard should be involved in policing. You tell me why you think they should be, or maybe you're going to tell me they're not involved in policing.
Well, number one, I'll argue both points. Number one, they're not really involved in policing. They're involved more so in the protection of federal property and federal interests. Number one, but number two, they do have a right to come in and engage in immigration enforcement and things that are under the federal Constitution.
Well, that's ICE. The National Guard is involved in what is the National Guard doing? What are they doing in Oregon?
Federal interests. Federal interests. So the federal.
So are they just going to be stationed outside of the federal facilities, or are they going to move in and around the city of Portland?
They can protect. They can do all sorts of things related to federal interests.
That sounds like policing. Okay, we have a federal judge here. I'm going to read it. This is going to be fun. Okay. The appellate ruling lifted a temporary block on the deployment of Oregon soldiers by Judge Karen Immergut. This has got to be like a far left leftist. So tell me, what leftist president appointed this lady to the bench who wouldn't allow President Trump to send in troops into Oregon? Which leftist president appointed her?
It would probably be Trump that appointed her. Huh?
Yeah. His own judge said this is a bridge too far, but she was overruled, and it went to California because they actually, I think, are sending National Guard troops from California to Oregon. Do you have a problem with that? Do you have a problem with him sending National Guard troops from one state to another state, or you're okay with?
I don't know. Once you've been called out to by the federal authority, I have no problem where you come from.
All right, and do you know? I don't know who appointed these two. Judge Bridget Bade and Ryan Nelson, both nominees of Mr. Trump, who portrayed they basically said things are so out of control that you can send them in. The one dissenting judge, Susan Graber, was a nominee of former President Bill Clinton, one of my
favorite president, Michael.
He's not my favorite, but he's close. My favorite, I think, is Thomas Jefferson, because as Bill Richardson once said, the Louisiana Purchase is the greatest land deal in human history, and he got that done. And by the way, if you're going to argue who's the greatest Secretary of State, it's got to be James Madison, who negotiated that deal. But anyway, I don't think that Portland is a city in chaos. I think they were looking for a reason. This is going to go to the U.S. Supreme Court, probably, right?
Yeah, I think this was a panel ruling. You know, they bring the panel first, and they can do en banc. So it was a 3-judge panel.
Wait,
it was like
en banc. Come on. People don't know.
So when you go to the appellate court, first thing you get is usually a 3-judge panel. That's what you got. Two judges versus one. That changes. Right. Then you can make a motion, and I think you can do it within 30 days or 14 days, whatever it is, for an en banc ruling. En banc means the whole panel.
All the how many people are? Do you know? How many would that be?
It's going to end up being like 14 or 15 judges that hear the case, right. And then they'll
probably do a more argument. Get everyone in there. Now they'll
bring everybody down to San Francisco.
Is this the appeals court that traditionally is far left, but that Trump kind
of?
Yeah,
this is the Ninth Circuit. This is going to be the San Francisco appeals court. And so what they'll do, but I really think it's going to get to the Supremes. I think they're going to have to.
No, it has to get to the Supreme Court. Now, on that note, Trump is considering using the Insurrection Act to send federal troops into the city of Chicago. What do you think of that? If he did that, would you be for that?
My feeling is that you have to walk down the streets of Chicago with a bulletproof vest as it is. So
I
I think
don't
that
think you have to. I don't think you have to walk down the street. I walk down the streets of Chicago
Yes, Mike.
all the
Your
time,
whiteness.
and I never wear a bulletproof vest.
You have your whiteness protecting you. I understand that.
I understand. Yes.
You know what? Hope and love is the
Mhm.
answer, says Senator John Kennedy.
Mhm.
But I still want to have a handgun just in case.
Well, I don't have a handgun. You should. I agree. You should have a handgun. There's a gathering storm over Chicago and the suburbs, even as Illinois State Police and regular federal law enforcement have been able to stand up to fairly small and only sometimes violent crowd. But the gathering storm of a wider military deployment to Chicago with full arrest power is being considered by the White House and talked up publicly by the president, especially since Justice Department attorneys lost several legal cases here in the previous week. And they are talking about him imposing the Insurrection Act. And so the Insurrection Act, basically by decree, he says there's an insurrection in Chicago and I get to do whatever I want. Is there any oversight, anyone that would be able to look at that decision and say you are implementing it unfairly?
What do you mean? Like that's why they were running it to court, right?
Right. So then you're going to have federal judges decide whether there really is. There's no insurrection, folks. There's a lot of people who don't like him, but there's no insurrection in Chicago. Chicago has some crime. They don't have. There's no insurrection. I did want to just point out one other thing that we're going to take a look at. Trump says Chicago is a war zone. So I just have a question for you. What idiot decided to put this building up in the middle of a war zone? What kind of a jackass puts up a skyscraper in the middle of a war zone? I don't know who this guy is. We better not let him have any more power. Look at that building. Do you understand? In the middle of a war zone, how is that still standing? That's the Trump Tower, folks, in Chicago. By the way, when he was being the Trump Tower, I didn't call it a war zone.
You know what the counter argument to that is, right? The Obama Presidential Library looks like it's been through a war zone. You want to show a picture of that? It looks woo. Yeah, and that's in Chicago, and that's on the south side, Michael. So you want to go building to building? The Obama Library is indicative of a war zone.
All right, so we haven't updated on the shutdown. It's gone on for 22 days. They're both hunkered in, both sides. That is, they both think they've got a good argument. I'm going to tell you where this is going to become a really big problem for a lot of people. On November 1st, I don't know if it's all, but a lot of SNAP benefits go away if the shutdown isn't reversed. Do you know how many people are on SNAP? On food stamps, that's what SNAP is. Do you know how many people are on? I think it's around 41 million.
Really?
If you are removing food stamps for about 41 million people, that's going to be really significant. We got 10 days left in October. I don't know if you get to November 1 and they still don't have a deal. The Democrats have gone against several clean resolutions. The Republicans won't go with their plan because they say that it provides health care to illegal aliens. The Democrats then counter that health care premiums are going to go up. And so they both think they've got good arguments.
So my question to you is this. You're one of those 41 million people, the vast majority of which are probably registered Democrats, right? What argument do you buy better? If the food stamps, the spigot shuts off on the food stamps, is it big bad Trump that makes you not get your food stamps, or is it the big bad Democrats that didn't go out and look out for you?
I think that the simple argument is Republicans hold the presidency, the Senate, and the House, and so you can't blame us. We don't control anything. That seems to be the simple argument. That obviously that's not exactly.
Trump said he was going to get money to WIC and to women and infant children, all that stuff for baby formula and all the stuff that was needed for children and women. So part of those payments are going to go. Trump's already said that. It's just a large swath is not going to go, and so I don't know. If I'm a food stamp recipient, I say to myself, and I'm not a political observer. I'm a little pissed at everybody at that point. And so I'll be pissed at Trump initially. If I'm a Democrat, I'm probably pissed at Trump no matter what. But am I not a little pissed at the Democrats too at the same time?
I think they're both looking at this as a political issue, but nobody wins. And Trump
I don't think any of those people are going to vote for Trump or the Republicans in the midterms.
Well,
anyway.
Nobody's going to vote for Trump unless he decides to run for Congress because he's done running for president.
But 2026, Trump is going to be on the docket for the Democrats. That's going to be their point. Trump. And so Those 41 million people, a vast majority of Democrats. Do you want to turn them into disaffected Democrats, right? By not going to
That's what,
at the end of the day, think of the calculus here. Keeping the government closed and not letting those food stamp payments go out only help the Republicans electorally because it's going to create disaffected Democrats. That's what it's going to do.
well, that is certainly the calculus coming from the Republicans. We'll see. This may soon be the longest shutdown in history. I don't think that helps his legacy.